Boy, Christmas brought so much joy. Couldn't wait for the presents and laughter. I couldn't sleep late at night, looking for Santa with lights. Those are the memories I still remember. Then I became a man, lost sight of who I am. But right in front of me was the answer. 'Cause on Christmas I feel joy, and I turn back to a boy. The answer is to stay young forever. This is not a Christmas, this is not a Christmas song. This is not a Christmas, this is not a Christmas song. This is not a Christmas, this is not a Christmas song. This is not a Christmas, this is not a Christmas song.
Ho, ho, ho. Hello, Star Wars fans. You know there's just 199 days until Christmas 2023. Oh, we finally broke down under 200, and we're down to 199. And today we've got a ton of Star Wars news to talk about. And hopefully my friend Jason Ward will be able to join us soon. And Jason, if you're not awake, when you wake up, look at your come join us. But there really is a lot to talk about. And just one note at the top is, you know, when there's little Star Wars news, actual news to talk about, people make stuff up. So we're going to talk about how some of this stuff is just made up nonsense, and how some of it is fan speculation. There's a good bit of fan math, and I have absolutely zero issue with fan math and fan speculation. I think that's fantastic. It's a lot of fun. It's what keeps us moving during the intermission between, and the hype that leads up to a show. Fan math is awesome. I love it, and it's fun to debunk too. So we could do some of that too. So we'll take a look. Yeah, Dale, it says rumor mills turn out the worst. No kidding. Because you know, let's start with Dave Filoni. Dave Filoni's movie is in the works. Of course, right now we're on writer's strike, day number 38. So there's nothing new. Hey, Dawn, hello. Hello to your mom and Sam as well. Tell Sam I missed her at the convention. She was supposed to come. We could have said hi. But so Dave Filoni's movie's coming, and eventually. And there's some rumors coming out about it. And one of these is that Alden Ehrenreich is going to be cast as Han Solo, reprising his role as Han Solo from the Solo movie. Now, this basically spins out of the belief that Filoni's movie is going to be Heir to the Empire. And when people then go back and read Heir to the Empire, if you've read it, if you were like me and you read it 20 plus years ago, and that's stuck in your head for a very long time, and you've gone and reread it, and that was your sequel trilogy. For many of us, that was our sequel trilogy for the longest amount of time, before the prequels even existed. So we were looking for Heir to the Empire. That lived sort of in our headcanon for a long time. And then, you know, things happen. So if that's the case, and you go back and you read those books, well, Heir to the Empire has certain story about it, right? That story has existed for quite some time, and it heavily involves Han Solo, Leia, and their kids, as well as Luke Skywalker, Mara Jade, and George Sabaoth, right? So there's a ton of stuff around that, and so people start just filling in the blanks, right? So we know Thrawn for example, he's the villain in the trilogy. One of the villains. George Cyboth is certainly a big villain in it, and Thrawn even has to kind of manipulate that guy because he's a wackadoodle, right? He's not on the same plane with everybody else. So so kind of Thrawn kind of shuffles him off and says, "Hey, I'll send some folks to you. How about you want Luke Skywalker? I'll have him show up." Different things. So when you start filling in those blanks and you start thinking about, well, how are they going to do Heir to the Empire? Then you start casting, right? You start fan casting it. Well, of course, high on my list for a Han Solo in Heir to the Empire would certainly be Alden. 100%. 100% it should be Alden. I would love to see Alden reprise his role as Han Solo. I thought he did a fine job of it in Solo. When all was said and done, as the movie worked itself through, I warmed up to it. Seemed odd at first, but over time you kind of get used to it. So then you think, well, what are they going to do with Leia? There's a big story with Leia and Chewbacca going to Kashyyyk and then having to go to the planet where Rook is from. Rook is a oh shoot, I forgot his species. They're gray, whatever. They go to that planet. There's a big side story with that, right? That's a big part of the movie because that comes into the Nogri. That's it. Astromech Jeremy. Hello. Oh, Astromech Jeremy. Thank you for that. The Nogri. Yes, the Nogri are the species. That is a critical part of the story. So without Leia going to the Nogri and without what she does there, then things don't kind of work out the way they do. It's a critical part. So you have to think, okay, if they're going to do a retelling of Heir to the Empire, they're going to do some sort of movie adaptation of it with changes, of course, that we've had since that book was written, right? Those books were written long time ago, and George Lucas changed canon from there to here. Like, we didn't have such a thing as Sith when those books were written. So they had Dark Jedi, right? There were all kinds of things. So tons have changed. What lots more Jedi are alive. so you know, when Yoda tells Luke, when I pass last of the Jedi, you'll be no, not so much. So there are tons. There's several, right? There's several. Billy Lord as Leia. You know, Billy would be great. It's great to honor her mom that way. I'm not sure that I'm convinced I would like to see her as Leia because they would need to deep fake over her face. The reason is that she's already shown up as a different character in the sequels. And so it'd be odd to see Billy Lord as young Leia and then see Leia with Billy Lord later. You know what I mean? So for me, that doesn't quite work. There was a time where they were talking about using Millie Bobby Brown. I'm fine with that. And there's an Irish actress that I absolutely love, and I would love to see her brought into Star Wars in some fashion. And I can't remember her name right now. Big fan of hers. So if Fitz may know who she is. Fitz is Irish. So, I just can't remember her name. Almost had it, and then it went away. So in any case, there comes this story that Alden is going to be recast. Cersei, that's it. Cersei Ronan. Thank you, Fitz. There you go. I would love to see Saoirse Ronan brought into Star Wars. I'm a huge fan of her as an actress. I think she does a great job, and she would be a great addition to the franchise. Her age, her acting, all of it. Make it happen. right? I fan cast her all the time. Any excuse to bring Saoirse in would be great. Yeah, Millie would be great, right? Yeah, or Saoirse. Yeah, right. They would be great choices. If they're going to do an Heir to the Empire retelling, which is possible, right? It's possible. I don't know that I buy it, but let's see, right? Let's see what happens. Then Alden could be Han Solo. We get Millie or Saoirse or somebody to be Leia. We have different Jedi alive. I don't know that we end up with a Jorah Cyberhoff again, if it's somebody else, or even if any of that happens. My personal opinion on all of it is that we're not going to get a retelling, right? We're not going to get a retelling of Heir to the Empire, and not an adaptation of the novel. If it happens as a movie, if they title the movie Heir to the Empire, which I think would be a mistake, and I'm here to tell you, I think some people who are leaning into the Heir to the Empire story are doing it with the intentionality of the rage videos when it's not. Right? I think a lot of people are thinking, oh, they're going to retell Heir to the Empire. We're going to get that story. It's going to be a movie adaptation of the books. And when it's not, then they can create the rage videos. So they're building it all up now. They're thinking, yes, that is the story. That's 100% true. I believe it. We're going to see it. That's what they're going to do. And they're leaning into all these stories. The people who are leaning into these stories the hardest are the ones that I am most, personally, I am most critical of, suspicious that when it is not Heir to the Empire, that they'll come out with the rage, right? That's just me. That's me. I agree with you, Astromech Jeremy. I think they may sprinkle in some of his plots. The Aftermath trilogy. Oh, bless you. Yes. With some elements of the Aftermath trilogy. We have changes, and it should be brought up that this movie is the culmination, right? Or they already said it's the culmination of, hey, that boy Steve, good to see you, my friend, of the Mandalorian, the Mandoverse stories. When we talk about that, right? I agree with you, Rick. When we talk about the Mandoverse stories, Mandalorian seasons 1, 2, 3, and 4, Ahsoka, and Skeleton Crew. When you start to add in all of those stories, right? Where are we headed? Let's put it together for all of you, right? Mandalorian, we've been with the restoration of Mandalore is where we ended off with season 3, right? Mandalore exists. They are now going to become a people, right? A faction, a group within the universe that have control of their own system, right? Mandalore. They're going to have control of the Mandalorian system. Yes. Yeah. Exactly. So they're going to have control of the Mandalore system. That's in there. Ahsoka. Where are we going with Ahsoka? We know that the first half, well, we go off of Jason Ward, makingstarwars.net. It's a little spoilery, if true, and I believe it is. First half is going to happen between Mandalorian Season 2, Book of Boba Fett, Mandalorian Season 3, like concurrently with that. The second half is going to be in the new space, like this new unexplored part of the universe. And it is going to involve Thrawn, right? And what's going on out in that space. Remember that in Heir to the Empire, Thrawn is in this space, and he hears of the lost Katana fleet that is in some lost space. So they are in this rush to go there, right? So the universe has already changed. He's not in this space and goes to get the fleet. He's somewhere else. and maybe he has already found the fleet. That's my own fan math, right? And I love it. It's my own fan math, is that he's out there, and um, that he is perhaps has a fleet, or as Jason suspects, that Morgan Elsbeth is building him a fleet. When we saw Ahsoka confront Morgan Elsbeth in Mandalorian season 3, that part of the reason that planet was so stripped and mined was that they were building a fleet for Thrawn. She doesn't necessarily have connection to Thrawn, but she's building a fleet for him, and her plan is to go get him, right? So she's supposedly going to go get Thrawn, and if she gets him, then he can come back, right? With this fleet that she builds him. That's a big difference from Heir to the Empire. And part of the Heir to the Empire trilogy, that is a big plot point that they drive towards. So that's changed. If he comes back with that, oh, Nikki's in the chat. Oh my goodness. I'm so happy because I know Nikki is a huge Heir to the Empire fan. Nikki is a huge Thrawn fan. Me too. And Nikki is a dear friend of mine. So good to see you, Nikki. So if, remember, the movie, Dave's movie, is going to culminate all these things together. Luke and Han and Leia and Chewie have not been part of that story. They don't look like they're going to be part of the story for Ahsoka. The Lost Katana fleet, is not part of the story. The story point may sort of be built through what Morgan Elsbeth is building and the Night Sisters. Of course, the Night Sisters didn't exist either, but that may be built through there. And then when we see the Skeleton Crew is supposed to kind of overlap into that space as well, right? And then it's supposed to tie into the overall story. Leading into Mando season 4, and we'll talk about that in a moment as well. We lead into Mando season 4, whatever transpires in Mando 4. I mean, we'll start getting more news about that. We can speculate about that. All of that culminates in the movie that's supposed to wrap up the story, right? It doesn't mean it's the end of Din. Doesn't mean Din's going to die, or Grogu's going to die, or Ahsoka's going to die, or any of that, because there's already been rumors of an Ahsoka season 2. There are rumors, right? So if all that happens, and then the movie happens, and the movie's called Heir to the Empire, well, what's the role in wrapping up the Mandalorian, Ahsoka, Skeleton Crew, right? Mandalorian 4 seasons, Ahsoka 1 season, Skeleton Crew 1 season, Book of Boba Fett 1 season, all of that wrapping up in the movie, culminating in it, right? How does that tie into the story of the Heir to the Empire? My argument is it doesn't. And all of these rumors that the movie is Heir to the Empire is trying to set up a rage video later when it's not. So that's me. The Nerd Mafia. Hello. Glad you saw Across the Spider-Verse. Of course, because you gave me a super chat. Nerd Mafia gave me a super chat last week and said, go see it. I went and saw it. I liked it. I do not think it is the be-all, end-all of movies that a lot of people think it is. I don't think it's the best animated movie of all time. I don't believe it's the best superhero movie of all time. And I certainly do not believe it's the best animated superhero movie of all time. However, it's very good. It's very, very good. And I'm very much looking forward to seeing the second half of that. So thank you for that super chat, my friend. And now go see The Flash. You know, I'm conflicted on The Flash. I'm certainly going to go see Indiana Jones, but I'm conflicted on The Flash because Ezra Miller's, do you reward that kind of behavior by giving it box office? I don't know. I'm really conflicted. But I might. I love DC. I'm a DC guy. Grew up DC, kind of not into Marvel at all. And The Flash is high on my list of things to go see, but man, it's conflicted. Mumbo Jimbo, hello, my friend. Thank you for the super chat as well. Big Hayden Diego interview. I saw that yesterday. It's actors interviewing actors, and Hayden and Diego. That interview was fantastic, right? It does increase the likelihood Hayden is destined for Ahsoka. Yes, in fact, Mumbo Jimbo, we already know Hayden is going to be in Ahsoka. That's for sure. That's for sure. It's happening. So there's a flashback scene, at least one. So looking forward to seeing that. Thank you for the super chat, and thank you for reaching out yesterday. It was good to hear from you. I appreciate the support. Fantastic guy. Fantastic guy. Let's see. Nikki. Is Nikki up to any... I'm here to rage. I know. Look, I watched the Salty Inferno, their video this week, and Nikki made some good points, right? she, she made some good points. If you don't follow the Salty Inferno, my friend Nikki, go check it out. They may not be for you. They may, but you can go check it out. The Salty Inferno. You'll see my friend Nikki on there regularly. She's co-hosts there. She's great. I love her. But they are a bit negative on things. Nikki doesn't mind sharing what's on her mind. It's really good. Thrawn versus Snoke would be dope. It would. I would love to see them build the storyline into the sequels. I just don't know that they're in a rush to do that. There's still over 20 years of time span between where they are in Mandalorian and the sequels. And Snoke's certainly around. Young Ben Solo is around. We could and should get a story of his adolescence, right? As he goes through his teen years. I would love to see that happen, but I don't know they're going to get there yet, right? NPC gives Spider-Verse a 7.8 out of 10. I would give it somewhere around a 7 out of 10 as well. To me, it was a little too frenetic. Like I didn't care for the pacing of it. Right? There were times where it seemed a little slow, times where it was so fast that it was like out of control. Part of it, I loved when they jumped into different universes and you get the Legoverse and different things. It was a ton of fun, but some of the art in some of it threw me out, and I was like, you guys, like, I absolutely loved the Vulture at the first part. Fantastic. But later in the movie, I was like, oh, you guys, woo, you're killing me. Yes. Yeah. Nikki, I can't wait for the Flash. It's called Batman Flashpoint. You know what it should have been? They should have just, well, anyway, I don't want to get too political. I know. We're here to talk about Star Wars. Let me get caught up with the chat. And, one day Nikki and I are going to sit down. We're going to do a stream together. And there we go. Matt Risman. Did somebody say Hayden and Diego's interview? Hit it up there. Oh, you can find it on our Discord. And folks, if you haven't subscribed to our Discord, you can find that in the link here. I'm very active in Discord throughout the day. Matt Risman's there. Nikki's there. All of our friends are there. Fitz and everybody. Not only that, but active on Star Wars. Meg's Discord and Jason Ward's as well. It's a great place to get information. It's a great way to communicate, great way to hang out with one another. So, yeah, come join us on Discord. Yeah. Oh, I want to talk about Thrawn so much. We'll get there in a minute. Let me just get caught up with the chat. To be fair, I feel like Disney needs to make a sequel to Return of the Jedi regarding what happened to the Rebels after second. Oh, Damien. Oh. From your words to Disney's ears, I hope that we do get a post Return of the Jedi series. I've been saying it for years that I would love to see like a Clone Wars animated series done post Return of the Jedi. So it'd be whatever they want to call that. And it would pick up with our main heroes, right? Luke, Leia, Han, Chewie, C-3PO, R2-D2, the whole gang. You could throw in Billy D. Williams, right? You could throw in all of them. And I would love to see that. 100%. I would absolutely love to see that. Uh, yeah, yeah. Let's see. Yes, and Felicity and Nikki together, a kind of, hey, trucker marks in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Nikki and Felicity together, kind of keeping it real and just giving their honest takes on things. You know, if they don't like something, they'll tell you they don't like it, and they'll tell you why. And you can agree with them or disagree with them. You can think they're too salty, but the channel itself says salty right on it. So so you gotta let that go. Sketchcraft. Hey Rob, go wake Jason up. Right? Where's Jason? Good to see you. The Willy Wonka's buying elves from Santa. Okay, so Rob brings up a good point. Another story we're going to talk about. It's that George Lucas is in talks to buy back Lucasfilm from Disney, and this is a long story that is quite ridiculous, to tell you guys the truth. There are tons of reasons, and I've seen most of the big channels cover it already. And there's lots of reasons to say that it's not going to happen. One is that George is almost 80 years old. The other is that Disney is not that desperate. The folks who say that Disney's shopping Lucasfilm to kind of bolster their bottom line are kind of exaggerating a touch. They're exaggerating a touch. Disney's doing fine, right? Are the profits down? Yes. Have they lost money on Disney Plus? Yes. Are there opportunities to make more money? Yes. Have they kind of left money on the table with Star Wars and with Marvel and other projects? Yes. But does that mean that there are, the dumpsters are on fire and they're in a tragic shape, that they have to sell off these properties to bolster the bottom line? No. No. And to be specific about George being involved, I can tell you that I have absolutely 100% confidence that he is not in any negotiations with Disney. The end. There's lots of things we could talk about. There's lots of things that I could chase down on that, but it's just a waste of time. It's flat out not happening. Flat out not happening. If Disney were to sell Lucasfilm, or if somebody were to purchase Disney, like people have speculated for years, Apple's got the cash, they could just go do it. If that were to happen, it would change ownership that way. But I don't think that they're actively shopping it. There's plenty of projects they have in the works. There's plenty of things that they are doing that give evidence that they are not divesting themselves at all of Star Wars or other Lucasfilm properties. Let's be clear. Star Wars is Lucasfilm, but Lucasfilm is more than Star Wars, right? Lucasfilm involves, of course, Indiana Jones, ILM, right? Industrial Light and Magic. Lucasfilm is a much bigger company than Star Wars. Not only that, but like the technology that has come out of Star Wars through the ages. It goes all the way back to George when he first set up Lucasfilm, and the absolutely revolutionary things that ILM did during his creation of Star Wars. We have so much to thank George Lucas for, and for what he did in the creation of the original trilogy, and then during the prequel trilogy, that he has transformed the industry. he has been a transformational power in the industry, and there's no questioning. But lately, with the volume, right, even though there's been some people who use it better than others, with that stagecraft technology, they are making money, right? They lend that out to people who are doing commercials or who are doing other movies, who are doing other projects. They are making money hand over fist with those studios in leasing them out. So that's all happening, right? They're not only that, but in the parks, they're selling product like crazy. I don't think that the Grogu merch is like not moving, right? It is. And they're making tons of money off the Mandalorian, and they're making tons of money off the Grogu merch. They're not about ready to divest of it. And then, so that's one side of it. The other side is George Lucas is almost 80 degrees. 80 degrees? almost 80 years old, right? He's almost 80 years old. He sold Lucasfilm. He's got other projects. He's still got a young child at home who's still in school, and his marriage. He's got his museum that he's been building. He's got tons of things going on that he doesn't need to get involved with Lucasfilm. And to be honest, if he were to buy it, let's make up some imaginary world where he bought Lucasfilm from Disney, he would sell it. And or just put somebody else in charge and sell it to them. He's not going to be running, even if he bought it, right? And let's say he bought it and he kept it in-house, and let's say he creates a foundation or some sort of holding company that would hold on to it past his death, right? And you know, pray that that's 30 years from now and he lives into his hundreds. Fine. Somebody else is running it day to day, and the person running it day to day is not going to be George Lucas at all. So kind of get over that. He's going to have somebody else run it. He may oversee things, but it's not going to be what people are fanning about. And there are other reasons that'll be known why he's not involved, right? He's just not involved. He's not. Astromech Jeremy, do you think it's safer to tell the stories of our OT crew, Ben, some other canon characters from the books and animation? Safer meaning not have to casting more. Yes, I do, Astromech Jeremy. The biggest risk of that, though, is budget and views. We already know that animation, there's a pecking order, right? Movies get more views than streaming shows, right? Direct to consumer. Movies are where the money is made. Direct to consumer, they've proven with all the streaming services, there's money to be made there, but still it's an investment platform right now. It's not just a revenue platform. So there's money flowing in, not enough flowing out. Direct consumer, that's all of our live action shows and whatnot. So movies, that's where you make all your money, especially when we're talking about producing shows. Direct to consumer, less so. Going to networks, there's plenty of ad revenue to be made there, but that's not what we're talking about here. Below that, live action comes animation. Below animation come books. Below books come comics and graphic novels, right? So there's a downflow where it kind of gets smaller and smaller. One of the largest revenue sources is games, right? Video games. There's tons of money being made there. But yeah, I think animation is the best opportunity to get to tell the stories with Luke, Han, Leia, like in a meaningful way, long format, right? Let's see. See if I can get caught up. Nikki, thank you for the Discord. Let's see. They need there are another NPC epic battles. Thank you for the comment. There's another series of videos that Matt Risman has posted on Discord about Disney Presents, and you can go watch it. It's not on Disney Plus, It's a different platform, and you can watch like interviews with the directors, the actors, things like that. They're fantastic. I haven't had a chance to watch all of them, but again, Discord is the place to be. There you go. There you go. Let's see. Um, let's see. Let's see if I can get caught up. If you heard the Idris Elba rumor about him being the villain for the Rey movie, um, I have not heard a rumor that sounds like fan casting, and I'm for it. I'm for it. 100%. Tales of the Jedi may give us more stories. I hope so. Tales of the Jedi would be a perfect platform, and I'm also in favor of the spin-off that could be done, Tales of the Sith, right? We get Tales of the Jedi, Tales of the Sith. I think it could be great. It could be absolutely great. Uh, yes, Matt. I know Matt is trolling, but it's here's the thing, and I think this has been said too. If Lucas owned Lucasfilm, who are you going to blame when you don't like the stuff that he makes? Who are you going to blame if George Lucas all of a sudden owned Lucasfilm? Say this weekend the deal happens Monday, he's leading Lucasfilm. We give him a year, 2 years, 5 years, however long, and then we get pure George content, 100% George content, right from there on. Who are you going to blame when you don't like it? And welcome to the prequel era, my friends. Yeah. Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, Amazon also has the cash, right? Uh, right. Exactly, Maria. Exactly. They're making way too much money on licensing. Amazon Star Wars. It kind of works, doesn't it? Lucasfilm has ILM, Skywalker Sound. Yes, yes. Exactly. The biggest money makers for Disney Lucasfilm, not the two IPs. 100%. Um, Saudi investors. There you go. And give George the reins. Well, it is possible. Those Saudi investors have all the money. They have all the money. Uh, let's see. Yeah, yeah. RF Gaming, you're not wrong. Apple, look, the rumor's been out there forever. Apple has the cash. If they wanted to do it, they could do it. It might be a bit of a hostile kind of situation where they'd have to do it in a hostile takeover, and then they have to go through FCC regulations and government bureaucracy stuff to get it done. But yeah, could happen. Um, let's see. Yeah. I can send Sketchcraft a link. I would love to send you a link, Sketchcraft. Where can I get hold of you? Where can I get hold of Rob? Where are you, Rob? I think you're on Discord, right? Are you on Discord? Just 1 second here. Let me see if I can find Sketchcraft. Sketchcraft. Oh, Sketchcraft. It'd help if I could spell. Sketchcraft, not there. Where are you? I'll tell you what, you send me something, I'll send you the link. There he is. There he is. Thank you, Rob. Here you are. All right, you guys are in for it now. I sent Rob the link. Oh no, what are we going to do? We're, we're going to get Sketchcraft to join us. Will Morgan. Hey, I've been talking to Will this morning. Will's got some great ideas too. I think I'm almost caught up with the chat. Mike Porter's in the house. We've got Star Wars Mandalore here. I mean, it says I'm 123 messages behind. Oh my goodness. You guys have been great in the chat. Let's see. All right, there we go. All right, next story as we wait for Rob to come in is, in fact, I may just wait for Rob because I think Rob has some fantastic takes on this. There's another story that we talk about that we had yesterday, and in that we had Rob and Jason talked about it, and I wanted to talk about it here with Jason, and we'll just talk about it with Rob. It has to do with the Acolyte. So we've talked about Alden being in Dave's movie. I think that's fan casting. I don't think it's an actual leak. And here he is. Here's the man, the myth, the legend, Rob.
Hey, what's up, Sam?
Thank you so much for joining me, Rob. We have similar opinions on things, and we have a lot of fun. So yesterday I was trolling Jason in the chat about Lucas.
Elving Santa. You were elving him. Right?
That's right.
Come on.
Yeah, we don't have trolls at the North Pole. It's elves. Yeah, but I was trolling him. I was elving him about George buying back Lucasfilm, right?
So you made his head explode, and that's why he's not here right now, right? Like...
That's probably it. But he didn't get to it, and I'm sure my comment that I made about what would happen if in an imaginary world of make believe, and we do that at the North Pole, in a magic world of make believe where George Lucas owns Lucasfilm.
Santa calls that Tuesday. Sorry.
Yeah. So who do we blame when we don't like Star Wars?
Marshall Lucas. Right? They got to find right. It's her fault. You'll see. You'll find a way. They always blame someone that got nothing to do with it. You know, I was thinking about this. Like let's just say. Let's just think about Disney for a second here. Like Disney's been in financial straits in our lifetimes. I mean, you've been around hundreds of years, but in my lifetime, right, my short span on this earth, they've been in worse financial straits than now many times. I mean, in the early 80s, they pretty much were almost out of business.
Oh yeah,
I mean, those were the days of Condor Man, right? Black Cauldron, right? This was like they were bleeding money with Disney Channel. I remember those stories. My uncles were they're around your century. They were very vocal.
Howard the Duck, that filled the coffers.
Well, that was later, no. but this was before. This was like right when Eisner took over.
Right.
And it's like at what point did Disney ever fathom selling like Mickey Mouse to make some bucks, to save some cash? Right? Like, have they ever sold any IP? No. I mean, they bought the Muppets from Jim Henson, and they've done nothing with them really. You know, like they made one show I like and some other mediocre halfway measures, but like they could sell the Muppets, but they won't. They don't give things up. It's not that kind of company. You know, people need to read the book Disney War. It's about the time Eisner and Katzenberg took over, and it goes all the way up until when Katzenberg leaves to form DreamWorks SKG. And then there's a secondary book called They Would Be Kings, or They Might Be Kings, the DreamWorks story, which is like a companion sequel book to that. But the Disney War book is excellent because it deals with the fallout of Pixar, like the relationship they had with Pixar and Eisner wanting to make directed, because Disney sort of owned the IP to like Toy Story. Like there's a ownership there of some sort. And they were going to make these directed DVD sequels to Toy Story, and they were going to build their own animation studio, and Pixar was out. Steve Jobs was like, I'm taking this company and leaving.
Yeah.
And so, Iger was the guy who sort of mended that relationship and took over. But like, that's a company in real like chaos. That California Adventure period of Disney, when they were spending billions of dollars to make essentially like a Disney store mall theme park. Have you ever been to California Adventure when it came out?
I have not. I've not been to California, but I'm quite aware of it. Right? They made a roller coaster and a Ferris wheel.
Extremely cheap. Like I was like, it can't be that bad, man. It's got a big mountain, look like a bear. This got to be cool. And I went there. I'm like, I love malls, but it was like, when a mall tries to act like a theme park, and you're like, it's still a mall. Like, you can try all you want. Like it's like they built that, and you're right next to Disneyland. You're like, well, why would I go here? It's the same price as that. At the end of the day, Sam, I'm just trying to say, like, they don't sell things back. You know,
No.
That's just not what they do. They could sell off Die Hard. They could sell off Aliens and Predator. You know, they could sell off all these other things to generate cash. They ain't selling. They got Star Wars for nothing. $4 billion ain't. I mean, is nothing for what that movie, that the IP will generate over 100 years. You know.
Oh yeah. Well, not only that, but it's been brought up that because they have such a diversity of companies, right? So they're a theme park company, they're a merchandising company, they're a
They're a cruise
animation
line.
studio, they're a cruise line, right? right, and they're a studio, right? They're a movie studio, multiple movie studios that are under the revenue streams that is Disney. And the advantage of having that kind of broad spectrum is that as the economy changes, as people start tightening their wallets and not going to theme parks, maybe they go see a movie, or maybe they quit seeing movies because they're doing something. Like there's a whole different set of revenue streams. And if you remember, one of the things that George Lucas had a problem with Lucasfilm is the time between movies. Like, okay, and it's great in the ILM documentary that's on Disney Plus now, right? He creates ILM, and they do all the work there for the original trilogy, and then he doesn't make a movie again for a little while. So, how are you going to keep these people employed? How are you going to keep them on the payroll, and how are you going to have them available when the next thing comes up, and to keep developing, keep
Santa. Let's not forget, that's how Pixar was formed.
exactly
He was
how
selling
Pixar.
off a division that he had no interest in. You know, like they were making commercial stuff, lifesaver commercials and stuff. And he's like, he sold that off. He didn't want to get into making fully animated films. So like that was a way to make some money and let them go off on their own merry way, you know?
Right.
Like the and the game LucasArts is sort of built at that time to in a way generate some revenue, but it wasn't their priority was to not lose money, quote unquote. That's Lucas's, you know. Tim Schafer's been like,
Right.
those don't lose us money. But like that was seen as a growth thing. But yeah, to keep everything in play, how do you keep all these people busy? Well, you know, you start to outsource your visual effects studio to other companies, right? And you
Right.
build a name.
Right. You call your
And
buddy, say, hey, I hear you're getting ready to do a dinosaur movie. Right?
Or actually, what you do is you call up James Cameron and you say, "Hey, man, I hear you're making a water movie. Check out this nifty fluid simulation we got going on,"
That
which
too,
then
yes.
gets you to Jurassic Park. I mean, it gets you to T2 and gets you to Jurassic Park. You know,
Exactly.
like
Exactly.
so. Yeah.
Right. So there's another story that's closely related to this, and it has to do with Leslye Headland and the discussion about, first of all, Jason and Bestman reported the filming has finished, right? Filming has wrapped for the Acolyte. They're in post-production on that, which is kind of handy since we're in the writer's strike, and now the Actors Guild has approved a strike that will go into effect at the end of the month, July or June. And then in July, we have the Directors Guild, DGA, is going to come up, and they're going to add to the strike. So Acolyte is done filming. They can do post-production on it.
DGA just made an agreement, you know, so they have to approve the agreement, but they sign an agreement. So that's questionable. I mean, like, the Screen Actors Guild, yeah, they could still, you know, strike. I mean, they're in what they call negotiations, right? Aggressive negotiations, right? To keep on theme with this stupid show. No, Star Wars fans are corny. So, but yeah, that's where they're in now, and then they're wrapping up on Acolyte, which is funny because we had like Jason covered this extensively, like what's going on with Acolyte, and then we had people come on yesterday on the show and go, "I heard it's canceled." Like,
Right.
you not watch the show, man? Like, you not even, you got to you know, they got to leave in the comments. I love people who leave comments, Santa, and don't watch the show. You know, that's the best.
Well,
yeah.
So, and I heard Jason say they're pivoting now to, well, season 2 was canceled. Well, I don't know how season 2 was canceled if season 1 was never approved. Right? There's a story out there by one of the I'm tired of dancing around it. I'm just going to say it. Cameron Pasha has been putting different stories out about the Acolyte, and one of the things that Cameron put out some time ago is that it didn't have a budget, that you couldn't find where it had got funded. So it had been greenlit, but it had never been funded.
What?
Right.
Like Santa, like you basically have to have never had. Look, I'm a union guy. I'm a workers guy. Okay. I support blue collar workers. I support people who were on their feet getting by for a living. Right. But like, you have to be a person who's never worked in an actual, you had to be like an Uber driver your whole life, self-employed, sort of self-funded person to have no idea how corporations work. Nobody starts anything without a budget. Everything starts with the producer who budgets even pre-production. Hey, we got a year's worth of pre-production. We got some money to burn because we got so-and-so. We're going to put it on this. And you have to submit that to accounting. Like that's what a producer does, man. Like Santa, this is not how it works. Like,
I know that.
Growing up with Alex Jones and that money guy, that Mad Money dude, right? Like, they think they can figure out, like, they could pretend how capitalist corporations operate here, right? Like, just dark money flowed in from somewhere. Who was it? Was it the Saudis? Was it more like you know?
Well, I think Matt Risman has his finger on the pulse. They got their funding from the British Crown. It's going to be a BBC series released next.
It's hilarious.
It's nuts. So then it was like, well, it's never getting made, right? So they kept reporting on it. Acolyte's not getting made. There's the rumors that Acolyte is false. It's not happening. It's never going to happen. That's one of Kathy Kennedy's projects, and it's been it's not going to see the light of day. So all these stories that say like the Acolyte has finished filming, the Acolyte's this or that, then all of that gets thrown into this category where they trust Doomcock, or they trust Cameron Pasha or whatever, and they say, oh, that can't be true because Cameron told me that it's not getting made. So that's fake news. That's fake news.
Santa, I don't even know who these people are. Like, that's how unimportant they. Think about all the useless Star Wars knowledge that's in my head, right? You've listened to me ramble on about.
I love it. Yes.
Right. I don't know. These people don't count, Santa. They don't exist. They're in their own little weird. I'm just trying to give you assurance, like out in the real world with like the working perfect. We don't know who these people are, man. Like,
I'm proud of you.
They're doing well for themselves, I'm sure, financially on the internet, grifting folks out of their shekels. You know what I mean? Like every day, just taking their social security, and putting it into their stupid Lambo coffos. But they don't count. Well, Jason made this comment once too about shows being canceled because Kathleen Kennedy's infamous for changing productions, canceling productions, or whatever with the movies. But he made a really good comment like a year ago where he was like, name one Star Wars TV show that's been canceled or switched up halfway through. It hasn't happened, even during COVID, even during like the height of like, will there ever be anything again? They still made Boba Fett. They still made Kenobi. It may have gone through some revisions, but they didn't cancel any of this. It's the movie side they're afraid of. And really what they're afraid of is just how do we live up to the legacy of Star Wars? I liken it to Sandy, you'll remember this. Remember the Batman movies before The Dark Knight?
Yes.
When it was just, hey, when we're going to get a new Batman, or when are they going to make a Batman? What villain are we going to see? Who's going to play Batman, or what villain, maybe what director? It wasn't after The Dark Knight, when they got the Oscar nomination and everything else and made $1 billion, then it was like, how do we got to make Batman's like an Oscar level thing now, right? How do we win an Oscar with the Bat? We have to win awards now. This is prestige stuff. And I'm like, it's a man dressed up as a bat, dude. Like, don't overthink this. Well, sometimes you're going to do quite well, but just go for a strong B. Like on a letter grading system, you might hit an A+. You won't hit a C- if you're shooting for that B. But they try. So in trying too hard, they make a Ben Affleck, and then they hire Matt Reeves, and they got another Batman going on at the same time, right? Like they don't know what to do. They want that award, but they also want the comic book toy money because the awards ain't selling toys. It's weird, right? It's
well.
fear.
Let's be honest about something else. And this, I think it's often overlooked. Is Hollywood is lazy, right? They're lazy, and if there is a revenue that's successful, whatever that might be, it's Jurassic Park, right? Jurassic Park came out. How many dinosaur / monster movies came out once it made its money? You get a superhero hit, then all of a sudden you get a bunch of copycat movies. You get a space fantasy movie, then you end up with a bunch of space fantasy stuff like Battlestar Galactica. Let's be honest, like the reason it got greenlit is because Star Wars did so good.
You got to be careful about the words you choose, though, Santa. Like that's like calling your elves lazy. They be making etch sketches all year long. Like people in Hollywood work really hard.
Okay.
I got a friend right now.
Yeah.
He's outside shooting from 4 a.m. till midnight. You know what I mean?
You're right.
Like
You're right.
they're derivative.
You're right.
You know, they're you could say that corporate Hollywood is derivative, right?
Yes.
Because they want to make their money back. That's what they're in the process of making money. So what's the soup du jour of the day, right? Sometimes it's disaster films. Right now we're in the comic book wave.
Yes.
You know, you were there during the height of like Star Crash.
Yes.
You know, and all that.
That's what I'm saying.
Right?
That's what I'm saying. Like Battlestar Galactica was the first really big just rip-off of Star Wars, but it was done really well because it was different.
On extra.
I love Battlestar Galactica. Like the original Battlestar Galactica, that was a big thing for me on TV. And have you ever noticed the side squirrel? Lexus, the front of their SUVs is a Cylon. It's a Cylon helmet. Just I can't look at a Lexus SUV and not.
You see the world in a strange way, Santa. You know, like,
I can't be the only one that sees a Lexus, and I'm like, "Oh, that's a Cylon."
That sounds more like a plea for help than you know. But I hear you. I hear you. I have my strange ways too. You know. Sometimes
I can't be the
see,
only one. I can't.
I'm certain now we all won't unsee it. You know, now we're gonna be looking for it.
When I look at that, I see Cylon. I don't know why. It's just like that looks like a Cylon. Like I can't. So here, let's bring up a Cylon. It looks like I am the only person that, like, right? Like, to me, it's like
wow. Santa uses Bing.
Look at that.
That's the bigger shock to me is Santa's a Bing guy. Like, all right, interesting.
That looks like a Lexus. Like, I don't know. It's just me. It's Centurion. NPC says he could see it, right? Like once you see it, I can't unsee it. So if I ever had a Lexus, I don't. If I ever did, I'd have to get.
Are the Cylons in the room with you right now, Sam? I just gotta ask. You know?
No Cylons. No Cylons.
Okay, just checking.
That's okay. So, but Leslye Headland, she got herself in trouble. Well, she didn't get herself in trouble. Back in 2019, she was having a discussion with a blogger, and Jason pointed this out yesterday. It was really, really pertinent. Something that I didn't catch. And something that needs to be put into perspective. This 2019 interview that she did that has Star Wars Theory and Josh and a bunch of other folks really upset about. She said this. It's in the context of the auteur myth.
The writer, director, sole creator, Legion of Force director. That's what we're talking about here. That's the director who wills the whole thing through to production from beginning to end and basically does everything. That idea.
I had no idea what an auteur myth was.
Well, the reality is that it really just signifies a writer director, and that you write an idea and that you're directing it. That's the reality of an auteur director. So Quentin Tarantino would be an auteur because he's making his own living, right? But there is the myth of the director who is they did everything. Like Steven Spielberg directed the whole movie. There's no first AD, there's no second AD. You know what I mean? There's just Steven Spielberg is out there doing the whole thing. Steven Spielberg trained a great white shark, Santa. Remember that one?
No, yeah. Well, so I did a Google search, not a Bing search. I did a Google search for what is the auteur theory, what is the auteur myth, and just the definition for folks that have never heard of it before. And I think you did a great job there of summarizing it. It says it holds that the director, who oversees all audio and visual elements of the motion picture, is more to be considered the author of the movie than the writer of the screenplay. So you used a good example. Let's talk about Jurassic Park, or not Jurassic Park. I'm sorry, Indiana Jones, right? Indiana Jones, Steven Spielberg, right? Directed the second movie. George Lucas wrote it. So the auteur myth would say, well, Steven Spielberg is more the writer of the movie than George Lucas.
Or ignoring the fact that Lawrence Kasdan actually wrote the first script, right? Because even though it's story by Lucas isn't sitting down every day and knocking out 4 or 5 pages, and he ain't got the index cards up. I mean, he even hired that couple to come in on American Graffiti and Star Wars to help out with that too. So like that like an auteur would be. Really, this sort of thing happens more like in student films, like the original THX 1138, where you got a really small group of people and it's your lead thing, your lead little film that you're making. But yeah, there is this myth because that's what sells interviews. That's what sells Entertainment Tonight. Remember that one, Santa? Remember that Entertainment?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And in her quote, she specifically is mentioning the auteur myth. And I'm sure there's some context before and some context after that puts it in, like, why did she mention auteur myth out of the blue, right? So, but she said the problem with today's auteur myth is this stuff, right? What does it say? It says, let me find I typed it out for Jason yesterday, and let's see, there it is. The problem with the auteur myth as it stands today, because they're not thinking this is a person who'll hire the right people, and this is a person who create the lookbooks and direct people to get them to the place. They're just thinking you have all the answers. Like, that director has all the answers. Everybody sits in a room and waits for the director to come in and tell them, this is how this should look. This is, makes all the decisions on all the things, and that they aren't somehow involving others in those decisions. We know with the original trilogy, for example, Luke's lightsaber color changed colors. Why? Did George Lucas think of that? Or did George Lucas say, well, let's change the color of his lightsaber? No, he didn't. Right? They were getting ready to shoot, and they're like, well, how does Luke not have his lightsaber? He got his hand cut off, and it fell.
You're giving it way too much credit. It's less effort than that. No, he had a blue lightsaber in the original Revenge of the Jedi trailer. It's blue. Right. The problem they had was they're shooting outside in Yuma, out there in the desert, and there's a blue sky. So when you put a blue lightsaber against a blue sky, you lose track of it when Mark Hamill's jumping around. So they changed it green so it would pop out.
No, like there's an interview you can go find. I've got it. I'll post it again. There's an interview where they're like, didn't he lose his lightsaber? George says, oh, don't worry about it. It'll be fine. And they're like, well, let's change the color of it. That way there's a distinction between the old and the new. George,
the interview was, I know the interview you're talking about. It was, well, how did he get it? And aren't people going to complain if we don't show how he got it? And Lucas's reply was, oh, they'll just write a complaint to Starlog. They'll just write a complaint letter to Starlog. I know that interview, Santa.
Yeah. Oh, good.
I'm a nerd, right? I read this stupid stuff too.
I was surprised that you were going back to the sky color thing, but that was the sky color.
But the sky color is actually like where was I? I want to say that's actually like that's a real thing though. That's actually what happened. The question is, how do we justify or how does it make sense and all these things? And Lucas was like, it doesn't matter.
Right.
Like I personally I think it does matter, but his focus wasn't showing Luke completing his training. His focus was he wanted to get Jabba the Hutt on screen. Like that was something he'd been wanting to do. Look, Paul Hirsch talks about the Jabba the Hutt thing when he was stuck in a room for 5 months editing the first Star Wars film. And he's the one that suggests, they cut out the human Jabba, that actor, like he's like, sorry, no offense to that actor, the performance was not there. He's like, but George was really adamant. He's like, and by hook or by crook, that man got his job in that movie one way or the other. Like even in his whole point was that he walks around. He wanted to replace the human Jabba with animatronic or stop motion puppet even then, but he couldn't because Harrison Ford walks behind him. That was the only thing. Yeah. So he's like, just trim it. We don't need it because it just says things we already know, and so he trimmed it. But then he commented about the special edition.
But that's
I'm with
you.
Yeah.
Because it just repeats. Like you watch Han talk to Greedo, and then you watch Han talk to Jabba. He says the same things. Like why? Why did we put that back in? What did it gain us except some cameo of Jabba the Hutt going across the?
You should listen to Paul Hirsch's. It's at least like 4 chapters, or like 2 to 3 chapters are dedicated to just this stuff.
So the bottom line of all this is that there were people making decisions influencing George in changing lightsaber color, changing how you're going to do Jabba the Hutt, cutting the film. Right, Marcia recut A New Hope. Those weren't all George's decisions, right? There were other people making decisions, other people contributing to the making of the films that George didn't have direct hand in doing. And so when she's saying this idea of an auteur myth that one person's doing all the things, that ain't true. And if you're looking for one person, she says, if you're looking for one person who has all the answers, and the truth is nobody does. Anybody that says they do is lying. That's sort of what she's talking about.
Right. And art is iterative, iteration, and anything you create is iterative. You don't just pop out Thriller, right? I just made the Thriller song, right? It's not, like Fried Chicken doesn't end up in a Queen lyrics because they knew, they had one vision figured out. It's a temp lyric, like they keep it in the song as a goof. So everything is iterative, but marketing is how you sell things, and people want to know, they want to rally behind somebody. It's kind of like how people are. So you sell something as Kevin Feige makes all the Marvel movies. It's not true.
Right. Yes,
like
exactly.
Even the Marvel Studios book goes for I'm going to tell you that Marvel Studios book, for being a legit, like when I say legit, like an official product coming out of Marvel Studios, it's pretty honest, as corporate honest as you can be. But they get into the foundation of that studio and they show you, no, man, it's you got you got Victoria Alonso, Luis Desposito, and Kevin Feige, and it kind of starts with this triumvirate. In the same way that Lucas starts out with, you don't have Lucas without Francis Ford Coppola,
or Steven Spielberg. That they were highly influential to each other.
Lucasfilm itself is basically the dream of Zoetrope, which was the auteur like director's Nirvana studio that Coppola wanted to build out in San Francisco. There's gonna be this like, we're gonna fund all these projects, and they're gonna be like Kickstarter in a way for like indie, and that never happened. But Lucasfilm itself is like that idea done financially responsibly.
So once we have this context, right, of what auteur is and what the context of her comments, now you back up into the thing that's got everybody upset, right? And she says the idea that Star Wars only came from the idea that it only came from George Lucas, that George Lucas holds the key for what we understand to be Star Wars, is untrue. Now, people are white knighting for George big time on that. They're like, wait, George is Star Wars. Like, Star Wars wouldn't exist without him. He created it. He is he's the man. Like,
Are you saying Americans don't get context, Santa? Is that what you're
100%? 100%, Rob. Like, I've been fighting this as a Republican for a very, very long time, and like
oh yeah.
dealing with my friends who are also Republicans. I'm like, oh my goodness, you guys are killing me because there's more context behind this stuff, right? But so she's saying George Lucas. The idea that only George Lucas holds the key for what we understand to be Star Wars is untrue. You could pick that apart and you could say, Leslye, that was a dumb thing to say, right? That was a really dumb thing to say because people are super devoted to George Lucas in his role as the creator of Star Wars.
Right? That depends on what year you're talking about, Santa. I don't remember the internet being very devoted to. Matter of fact, when that Clone Wars movie came out, I don't remember one person going, George Lucas needs to make more Star Wars. I like how like these Star Wars fans, I call them turncoats, man, because like they always root for whoever like they want to root for. There's no consistency to their argument, right? Yeah. They were the ones that wouldn't stop sending you the Red Letter Media Phantom Menace video nonstop, right? Like, go look at it. This is it. See, it's proof. See, it's all horrible. Lucas doesn't get it. And now the same people are like, he's the only one who gets it. No one else gets it. Like, it's just ridiculous.
Right. And so I think, like you told me before, be careful with your words, Santa. Right? I don't mean like the people who are creating the stuff in Hollywood are lazy. The filmmakers, the producers, all those people, the writers, they're working their butts off. It's the studios as a whole that tend to be, as you said, derivative. That's the word I meant to use, and that makes more sense, right? It actually describes what I was trying to say. By her saying that the idea that George Lucas holds the key for what we understand to be Star Wars is untrue, people are mad, right? Well, he is certainly the key to understanding Star Wars. But the idea when auteur myth that he is the sole auteur for Star Wars is false. That is a more accurate saying, right? Statement, in that he had plenty of help. And we can all agree that he had plenty of help making Star Wars, and decisions that that people made for him to make the movie better.
Oh, you think George Lucas was sitting around on set in 1997 going, what this Darth Maul needs is some wushu combat, right? I've been watching Ultimate Fighter, and
right.
I've been playing like some Street Fighter and some Tekken, some Soul Edge, and I really think if he just flips around and does cartwheels, that'll really make a difference. He doesn't know what wushu combat is.
No,
like even Ahmed Best, when we interviewed Ahmed Best a year ago,
right?
That was super awesome.
Yeah.
And Ahmed was talking about how George would pick him up from his house, and they would go and get a coffee on the way to the studio, right? And I was like, oh man, what was that like being in the car? Did he order for you, right? Like, did you want to get something? He gets you something. And what he was trying to say though is they had conversations about Jar Jar, and Ahmed was thinking like he'd be more like Jackie Chan, like Jar Jar, like he could do these pratfalls and these things, but it would be more like martial arts comedy in the way that Jackie Chan added comedy to the Bruce Lee thing, right? But George was like, no, it's like Buster Keaton, right? It's like he, he's a little older guy. Right. George Lucas was there the day Disneyland opened. He's not thinking like you or me, You're
right, and I could go down a rabbit hole on what you just said too, because you're absolutely spot on there. Like he comes from, he's 80 years old. Let's just round up, right? He's 80 years old. They come from a different generation. He was influenced by a different generation ahead of him. And even though he made a bunch of changes, he's still an 80-year-old man. Is he progressive? Is he like modernized and all that? Yes. But does he have some 80-year-old man thoughts? Yes. Right?
Yeah.
So and if you go back, and this is what I mentioned at the very beginning when you joined us, like if George owned Star Wars now, and we gave him a year, 2 years, 5 years for content to catch up to him buying it. When people don't like that Star Wars, then who do they blame, right? And it goes back
Michael Arndt. Because
Yes.
you go and rehire Michael Arndt, and then Michael Arndt would sit down for another 5 years until Lucas is 90 to finally finish the script, and then they go make it, and then they'd say, "Well, Michael Arndt," because Michael Arndt was writing this sequel trilogy for George, or developing it at the very least, at the
Well,
time he
and
sold it. So
yeah,
Lucas
and
wasn't writing these scripts anyway,
no,
like.
no, and he made changes, even the prequels that didn't land well for me. And at the time, I like you and I, we share a lot in common because we remember the prequel era. We're both veterans, and we both were similar aged when those came
Oh,
out.
people don't realize, Santa, that day Jack Skeleton tried to take your job, I was there for you, right? Like we were fighting the Halloween wars.
That's
Right? You remember that?
I remember.
It was a
Oh, yeah.
scary time. Scary time. Scary time.
But there was not this universal belovedness for George Lucas. It just wasn't.
No.
It's like maybe it's time that he quits making Star Wars movies because he sucks at making Star Wars movies. That was a narrative. It existed. I'm not making that up out of nowhere, right? That existed. And when they sold Star Wars to Disney, there were a lot of people who were like, "Whoa, finally we could maybe get some good Star Wars," right? Like, so don't think that the modern narrative about him is universally true. Like you made a really good comment about, yeah, they changed they changed their attitudes on a dime for seemingly
Yeah.
no
Then
reason.
there's no consistency.
Yeah,
What I've tried to do is you don't have to agree with me, and I'm not here to change anyone's opinion, right? I just tell you like what I think, but I try on my hardest to be consistent. And if I
yeah,
adjust and pivot, I explain why I adjust and pivot. And,
yeah,
yeah, I changed my mind on that.
yeah.
Like I was the guy defending the Phantom Menace because I believe
Me
George
too.
Lucas could do no wrong, right? And there's things
Yeah,
about the Phantom Menace I really enjoy,
yeah.
and from a technical standpoint, absolutely love, and from an art design standpoint, love.
Hmm.
But I got to tell you, it took a couple years. Slowly, as I'm watching it more and more, I'm like, maybe he's just rusty. Right? That's the way I got. By the time the video came out, I was like, he's probably just rusty. It's been a while. He'll get better at. He'll figure out. The Matrix just came out. He'll step up his game. Blah blah blah. Attack of the Clones comes out. I'm out. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I'm out.
I,
I'm out. I'm out of
Rob,
this.
that's exactly what I've
Yeah.
said. Like I defended the Phantom Menace. I was like, you guys are being too harsh. Like, calm down. It's not that bad. Yeah, I don't like that, and I don't like that, and I don't like that. But overall, it's a good movie. There's some great Star Wars in the Phantom Menace. There's some great Star Wars in it. And then and people were like, oh, but I hate this and that. Okay, fine. I could agree with you. And then the Clone Wars came out. Oh my, or Attack of the Clones. The wheels came off for me. The wheels just came off. I'm like, you know what? I can't defend this anymore. I'm done. I can't. I just can't. Right?
It's not for you or me to defend. It's an artist makes something, and I don't even know if it's for artists to defend. People can reject your work. You don't have to defend it.
Oh no.
But like, I'm like, all right, obviously he's making something that this one ain't. This ain't for Rob, man. I gotta get out of this.
That's what I said.
But I'm always interested. But what I was always interested was the making of. So I'd follow the making of Revenge of the Sith. I had no interest in seeing the movie. I wouldn't even want to see the movie. I had a friend took me to go. I was like, I don't want to see the movie. I just want to follow the making of it, the artists, how it was made, blah blah blah. But to explain why I'm saying all this is there were people at the time who were so unhappy with Star Wars and George Lucas. They started that George Lucas R-worded my childhood.
Oh, right.
You
Yes.
you remember that
I know
one?
what you're talking about. The People versus George Lucas. Go watch it. You'll know what we're talking about.
Yeah. And so like that, this is just revisionist history. You stick around the earth long enough, you just see them, you see people like doing the same thing over and over again. Right. Or trying to act like they never said something or did something and that didn't really exist, blah, blah, blah. And you're just like, all right, man.
So
like,
NPC brings up a good one. Look, my youngest daughter is 21. She's 22. She's like, Dad, the original trilogy's for old people. She agrees with NPC. It's for old people. I don't get why you guys think it. The prequels are way better. I'm like, you're dead to me. Go away. No, I don't say that. I'm just like, I don't understand. And she likes the sequels the best. She likes the sequels, then the prequels, then the original trilogy. That's her. So each generation has a different Star Wars that they associate with, and they don't have to be made for you. They're made for a new generation, and that's fine. And like with
All
the prequels, not made
all
for
this
me.
stuff has to do, Santa. I try to stay out of these. These are what I call like not nitpicky, but they're like trying to be very like this is why, and it needs to be this and that and that and this over here. All that to me is it's too close to, you're looking too hard at it.
Yeah.
I just think at the very end of the day, Star Wars has a moral behind it. Every
Yes.
Star Wars film should have something to say that is universally true, that is morally true, that has something, a human experience. That moral can be, you can have a failed Anakin can go wrong.
Yeah.
How did he go wrong? What could have been stronger in that series was okay if Padme was the lead figure, because your boyfriend's gonna go horribly wrong and destroy the universe. Like what do you reconcile when the people you love become monsters?
Right.
I think, Santa, as you and I've gotten older, we've seen people in our own lives that we loved and cared about turn into absolute monsters.
Yeah.
And so that's where Star Wars can help, because it's trying. It's still a commercial product, but it's trying to have a universal truth behind it.
Yes.
Lucas was trying to add something that went beyond those 1930s serials and added some of that spiritualism that was happening in the late 60s, early 70s.
Yeah.
And so when it is just about, oh, it's doing this lore and this character and it ties into a book and this is that person's apprentice and master, that don't matter. It's irrelevant whether it's Star Wars. It needs a universal human truth. That's why Andor to me stands out, because it has a real human truth. You can run from fascism, but you can't hide. It will eventually consume you.
It will.
Andor at the end of the day is what Han Solo would have been had he not come to save Luke. He would have took the money, he would have gone, he would have partied in Ibiza, Star Wars, Florida, right? And he would have been captured. They would have captured Chewbacca, or tried to arrest him because they're a bunch of xenophobic, Imperials. And then they would have Han Solo would have been captured, and they would have been stuck building the second Death Star.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they'd have to break out. But that's what I'm saying. Like, that's what happens. Like,
exactly.
But if it just turns into, but this is how Bo-Katan gets something and she goes here and now she rules things.
Well,
like that isn't a moral truth. That's just moving action figures around the playset.
Well, you
see what I mean?
Touch base. So the Mandalorian, right? What was so attractive about season 1, especially, is the cub, right? The wolf and cub, right? That story
the adopted
resonates.
Family. Right.
That's been done over and over again, and we've mentioned it, right. and that is a compelling story when done well, right? Like, the kid, the adoptive family. Let's just stop there, right? So season 1 was really good at that, and then by season 3, I think the story of redemption of Bo-Katan is a fantastic story. But if you're not resonating with that story, if that story isn't told sufficiently to capture you, then it's going to fall flat. And that's, I think, what happened to a lot of people for season 3, is they're like, I didn't get that out of it. It didn't connect to me. And I just feel like the whole thing
to have a
fell
redemption,
flat.
you have to have a fall. And you never saw that fall. You had to maybe pay attention to a cartoon. You don't see this. They're just assuming you just know all this stuff. There isn't even an opening crawl to tell you what this stuff is.
Right.
So then they try to do it through exposition. No, these things happen and they happen. And that's, people don't feel things when they, you ever explain someone like a movie? Did they ever get the same reaction when they actually see the film, Santa? Like, you ever explain the ending to Star Wars to someone and they have a spiritual, that's the greatest thing I've ever seen? No, they have to go still see it. So you explaining things to someone doesn't provide the emotional reaction to experiencing it for themselves. And that's what happens when you try to, use exposition to cover up for a human journey.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. There's a couple other stories I'd like to just touch base on. And this is just to kind of wrap up the stories of the week, is Mando season 3 Gallery is coming up on June 24th or something like that. June 28th. I'm looking forward to seeing that, to see the making of it. Like, what were the directors thinking? What were they talking about? And how did that, because one thing that those can do is tell you the story behind the story to make you understand better what you saw when you watched it. And you can go back and watch it and get more context of, oh, I get that now. And then that begins to land better for you. So I enjoy those things, but it still goes to your point. Like, you still got to watch that thing. You got to watch the cartoon. You got to read the book. You got to watch the documentary. It's
The
not,
show should reward you for having watched it. It shouldn't require you to. And I stand that way with Marvel or DC or anything that has
yeah,
a large tapestry behind it. You should be rewarded, and they should put things in that pay off for those who knew. But if you're requiring that, like
yep,
you don't have to see any Mission Impossible movie to get each Mission Impossible film. That's
right.
designed by a choice. So
Yeah.
that's just something that I believe in.
No, you're
But
right.
the gallery things are the closest thing we're getting to Cinefex. So the old Cinefex magazine. So
Mhm.
like it's the ABC special version. Like it's not anywhere near as in depth, but I'll take it. So I'm looking forward to that.
That's good. That's good. There's also some talk about more Jedi surviving. Ahsoka, we've learned now, Balin is confirmed to be a survivor of Order 66. Some people are upset by that, and now there's some fan theories coming out of it. And this is our friend Meg.
They're
came up
always
with
right.
a theory. Right.
Can't wait.
Meg and I both have a fantastic track record of our fan theories coming true. Yeah, almost never. But anyway,
But you tried, right?
we tried.
That's what I
And
appreciate.
that's why
I appreciate.
it's fun to have fan theory, but you should call it that, right? You shouldn't be like, oh, Alden Ehrenreich has been cast for. No, don't say that. That's a fan theory, right? So could it happen? Absolutely. But we just don't know. But the fan theory that Meg came up with is interesting. Is that Barriss Offee would be his Jedi master that taught him after she fell from the Jedi Order, was let out, that she started another Jedi Order, more dark side, and that's who he trained under. It could
She
be
the one that was killed 3 different ways in Revenge of the Sith.
no,
They couldn't decide how to kill her. Was that the one?
No,
Right?
no.
Okay. Remember, there was one they were like, Lucas was like, man, that's not how you kill her. Hold on, I'll get to it. I gotta go
I
get
love
I
that.
gotta go get a Starbies. I'm gonna get a Starbies, and then I'll figure out how I'm gonna kill her by lunch. Oh, bye.
Yeah, that's Shakti.
Right.
I think every show should have Shakti getting killed.
Gotcha.
Right? Like, and then how does she get killed in this show? It could be different in every one. That could be the Easter egg for everybody.
Like the ending to
look.
Clue. Maybe it happened this way, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
How did Meg arrive at this? Are they like in canon related somehow, or did she like?
Well, Barriss and Ahsoka were really close, and then Barriss, they kind of went different directions. It goes back to what you said, where you've seen one of your friends just become a monster, right? So that's what happened. Ahsoka and Barriss were friends. Barriss becomes a monster, and off she goes. So there's this close connection between Ahsoka and Barriss. And anytime you talk about her, people are thinking, well, where's Barriss? Is she gonna come back? Are they gonna fight? Is the Inquisitor Barriss? Is the person in the shadows around the corner the Barriss? Like, what are they, right? Yeah, she was in the wrong Jedi, right? There's you got to go back to the Clone Wars animated series to get all of that. So it's just it's fan mathing. Like, okay, they were close friends. Where does she go?
Problem with that maneuver, right? If you're working on the show and you don't know anything about Barriss Offee and stuff, right? And
Right.
say Star Wars Story Group comes to you and says, "Hey, we got this thing, and that could be why this happened." You go, "Yeah." The problem with that narratively is you take away agency from Balon to have ever made a decision for himself. So now you're talking about a guy who's only here because someone else didn't like you, and remember that time you guys didn't get along, and I'm the result of that. Then this is a surrogate character for that other character. You may as well just make Barriss Offee an old, decrepit Sith witch and have her show up and fight Ahsoka. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That sort of thing takes away agency, like just narratively when you do that. So then it sort of doesn't mean anything. And like I just sat last night, Santa, I just sat through this Transformers movie, man.
Yeah.
And I had forgotten. At the end, I'm like, this movie, man, like, this is like a Disney Plus show with a bigger budget. I can't stand. So they won't shut up, endlessly talking about something that was related to something else. I'm like, what?
Right.
At the end, it goes written by Joby Harold. I'm like, I knew it. Like, I knew it. Like, I forgot. And I remember complaining about this when Kenobi came out, that, oh, that Joby guy's writing this Transformers movie. Yeah, that makes sense.
And that was my friend Will Morgan with Boba Fett. He's like, this is the guy that wrote Spy Kids. You're like, oh.
Yeah, but to be fair, man, he also wrote El Mariachi and El Desperado and stuff like that. I don't know about, but he didn't write. Favreau wrote Boba Fett, so you got to be like the guy who wrote Zathura wrote Book of Boba Fett. You know, Robert Rodriguez only directed like 3 episodes, and I guess sort of show ran it, but we don't. No one knows, by the way, who was really the showrunner on that production. Even Jason can't nail that one down, by the way. So my guess is nobody was in charge of Book of Boba Fett. It was sort of loosely Favreau or internally. I don't know.
Yeah.
But what I'm trying to say though is like I know you want it to connect, you know, more to the things that you love, to make those things more real,
mm-hmm.
or mean something. But you do, when you go down that path, you are running that risk of becoming those people that I can't personally stand this, Santa. When a new movie comes out, like say a new Batman movie or a new Turtles or a new Top Gun, they're always wondering what other cameos are going to be in the movie.
Yeah.
Right? Like, is Swamp Thing going to appear in the new Batman movie? Because Swamp, you know, if Swamp Thing just shows up, like, what does that have to do with Batman? Like, I don't care. Like, I just want to know. I just want the Batman movie, man. I don't care if a million can. If something's in there, it used to be fun back in the day because we were getting so little of Star Wars or Marvel or DC that you would like those Easter eggs, you know, because it, you know, you're not getting this very often. Yeah. But you know they're going to make a Swamp Thing movie, or, you know, Barra Sophie will show back up when they do another Clone Wars thing, you know.
Now I have to know, is Plastic Man going to be in The Flash? I mean, that's... I'm watching for Plastic Man. I need Plastic Man into a Flash. That's it.
They could somehow wrangle Jim Carrey out of retirement. We all know. Plastic Man is the greatest villain of the DC universe that they haven't utilized yet. He was sort of that way in Frank Miller's Dark Knight Strikes Back, but it's a terrifying villain, Plastic Man.
No, I'm thinking the superhero guy, Plastic Man.
Yeah, but I surmise he's really a villain. You know, like if Plastic Man goes bad, we all die. He's indestructible. Like it's like Gumby could kill us all because you can't stop Gumby. You cut him, he splits into 2. Right? He's like worse than a gremlin.
Right. A couple other stories. Boba Fett at Mando season 4. Jason and Bespin have been talking about that as well. In fact, Jason shared that he saw where they were doing updates to the Slave One and new Boba Fett
spray,
armor.
The fire spray.
Boba Fett starship. So
they should have to say that full name in the show. Hey, let me go get the fire spray, the Boba Fett spaceship, like every time, right?
Yeah. But still no Boba Fett season 2 out there. But that goes again to what I'm talking about, this Mandoverse movie that's coming, Dave Filoni's movie. It's the culmination of all of those. And so Boba Fett to show up in Mando 4 could mean...
my movie! Santa, we making Mando forever. You won't be in it? You won't be in it? We're gonna need toys. We're gonna need toys. I heard you got the facilities.
Oh, I do. Right? I do. I need to be in it.
We ain't got the budget to get HasLab, so you're gonna have to just do everything yourself, you know. But I want to put little nipples on Grogu. You want to do that?
No nipples on Grogu. Right. No.
Sorry, Stan. Sorry, Dave.
Dave,
you know,
it's great. We got.
He's a director now. Yeah,
that's good.
He's a real boy. Like Pinocchio's a real boy. He's a real director.
It was fantastic. And then the other story. What's the other one I had up here? Acolyte, Boba. No, I think that's it. You
excited about Boba Fett coming back? You think they'll give him something real?
That's what I was going to say. So, I like that they're keeping with the universe, and that Boba Fett would be part of that Mandoverse like culmination event. I don't really care. To be honest, I don't really care. I hope they do him well, and I hope that people enjoy it. And I think it'd be great if he shows up in the movie with a prominent part. But
Look, nobody complained about Robert Rodriguez when he directed that episode of Boba Fett Mando season 2. You know,
oh right,
I complained about the director of photography because it literally looked like the backlot they shot Bionic Man on. Remember that series when Bionic Man would always go into, they'd just be up fighting on some rocks, you know, behind some house in Simi Valley. Like I was like, I know this location, but the fight was fantastic. No one complained about Robert Rodriguez then. So,
right.
You know,
I thought it would have looked wonky too. I'm like, it looks like somebody shot this in their backyard, like, and they, basically did.
Yeah.
It's like this,
but really
weird.
Well. Like the fight was great. You
Sure.
know, like he was killing stormtroopers and dropping napalm on them, and just it was like the George Wick. Yeah.
That's John's younger brother. Yeah, George.
Yeah. That's the angry George. He turns into George Wick. You know, he's the John Wick of the Star Wars universe and that stuff. I liked him with that real dinged up armor too. I was all battle damage. Remember?
Yes.
I thought that looked great when he cleaned it up. I'm like, why did you do that?
Dad bod Boba. What's wrong with that? I got no problem with that.
They're all gonna get there, folks. You know, everyone thinks they're not gonna age, Santa. They're all right. The aging and getting bigger. That was your choice. You chose that. I'm not choosing that. All right. Well, when you start having panic attacks in your mid 40s, you get back to old Rob. You know what I mean? I'll be here for you. You know.
On our Patreon, I've been going through the Thrawn novel, and so as we lead into Ahsoka, I'm super excited to see how the Thrawn is brought into live action. But I'm also very scared, right? Because Thrawn in the novel, we're up to chapter 11, 40% of the way through the book. Yeah. Well, not, the 2017 novel, not the.
The Thrawn Zon.
Yeah. The 2017 novel. It happens concurrently. It happens just before Rebels. It's leading up to Rebels, and then you get the backstory for Thrawn and for Arenda Price. So if you watch the Rebels and you know those characters, you get in the backstory to them, and then you pick up from there. So in the second book, the second book happens concurrently with Rebels, but the thing that I've noted in covering the book, and it's on our Patreon. You can find the link to our Patreon in the description. You can find it in Discord. I've posted it all kinds of places. But you see that he tries to defend the defenseless. He tries to fight evil. He tries to give credit and take blame. He's deferential to others, trying to help others. And so he's never seeking power or glory for himself. It's always in the service of others. So I'm concerned about how he'll be portrayed in the movies, that he might, or in the series, in Ahsoka series, that he will come off more as a villain, like a mustachio kind of bad guy, than the Thrawn that has been depicted in the books. So
I would surmise, to use that word. I never use that word, but I'm using it today. The Thrawn in those books is a different Thrawn than in the Heir to the Empire series, and even the Last Command or Outbound Flight. You know, like closer to the Outbound Flight, but I still think everyone should have a flaw. And Thrawn's flaw is he still sees a monolithic imperial rule as the answer to everything. It might be in his mind, a fair monolithic imperial rule.
Yeah.
But it's still subjugation at the end of the day. It's his subjugation, you know?
Well,
so when, you're not going to live forever, Thrawn. Like someone will take over and then we're right back to Palpatine. So like, or someon like it, you know?
There's a good history lesson in that though, because many people give up their freedom for a, what they call them, there's a term in history where you end up with a monolithic leader that leads out of compassion, kindness.
It's the theory of the good king. You know,
Yeah.
like, oh, the good king. The good king's gonna be good. He's gonna treat us well. Yeah, but then his shit kid's gonna. Sorry for my language. But his not Santa. I know. Coal this year for Rob. You know, his no good kid will show up. You know, and ruin it for everyone.
We see that in the Bible, right? We see that in the Bible, in the Old Testament, even like where they get a good king, then his kid comes along.
Saul, you're talking about King Saul, right?
Yeah.
Saul and David. Yeah, I read all this stuff.
I know you know. I know you know. You're a smart man.
Whoa! You're generous.
Too far.
You're too generous, man.
but you're right about seeing like the idea of somebody who protects the defenseless through power, right? His other flaw is he's blind to political manipulation. He's great with warfare and great with seeing strategy for war, but he's terrible in seeing political manipulation and sets himself up to get in a pickle quite a few times because
sort of the Churchill bit, right? Like,
like
a wartime leader, right? He's not like hey, can't be a war all the time.
He can't catch that his enemies who are on the same side as him, right?
Apparently, Thrawn never read his Shakespeare. You know, he was too busy reading Robert Heinlein novels. You know, he should have been reading some William Shakespeare.
You know, he'd do well to remember the Ides of March. Just saying, like, you know, he's
and whatever happened to Jack Frost, right, Santa?
Right,
right.
Like, if we're on the same side, you can't be my enemy, right? He doesn't get that. And so there are times where like somebody's trying to set him up to fail, but he's like, why would they do that? Because then we all fail. Why would you want me to fail? Or why would I want them to fail? Just because they tried to do this bad thing. I want to teach them to do good. So there's all that kind of stuff going on. But we'll see. We'll see what happens with him as it goes. Rob, thank you so much for joining me.
Sorry for ruining the show, Sam.
Oh, it was great. It was great. And we got to say something about that loser, Jason. It did just.
I did not call him that. You did not call him that, Sam. He looks small, but he's a rather large fellow. Like
that's what I've heard. He keeps claiming he's like 6'2", and I'm like, nah, you look 5'8" to me. But, you know,
well, Santa, everyone around you looks 5 inches. You know, like 2, 3.
Well,
right, 1, 4.
I live with elves. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? Well, thank you again, Rob. I really appreciate it. It's been great hanging out with you today. It's been fantastic. Thanks so much. All right, everybody. Hey, I hope you all have a wonderful day, and we will see you next week. Until then, Merry Christmas, and may the Force be with you always. Bye-bye.